This video is to help you to support your child when they are completing the chunking method of division, also known as long division, as part of their home learning. The chunking method of division is often used when dividing large numbers by 2 or 3-digit numbers. Here you can see a worked example of the chunking method. The chunking method actually uses your knowledge of times tables to slowly chip away at the starting number until you reach as close to 0 as possible. Down the side, a note of which multiplications you have done to chip away is necessary, as this is what will give you the final division answer. As with all written methods in maths, using squared paper and setting out the numbers clearly, using one number per square is highly beneficial. The chunking method often needs many calculations to reach the final answer, and organisation is key. Here I'm going to show you 3 worked examples of the chunking method from start to finish. To be successful at solving a chunking method of division, your child will need to know how to multiply numbers by 10 or 100 easily in their head. There is another video on the school website if they need help with this. You're going to start by writing the division out the same as a short division with the line separated. So here we have 7,956 divided by 12. Now you're going to start by thinking, what can I multiply by 12 to take the biggest chunk off my starting number? 10 times 12 would only be 120, so there'd need to be too many chunks for that. 100 times 12 would only be 1,200, so maybe aim for a bit bigger. Try 300 times 12. Now, if you're wondering how to solve 300 times 12, you can do 100 times 12, which is 1,200, and then you multiply it by 3, which becomes 3,600. The chunking method is very personalised. You might choose to take a bigger or smaller chunk off first. The most important thing is that you write in brackets at the side of the multiplication the size of the chunk that you have taken off each time. So here, once you've decided what you're taking off, write it underneath the number that you are dividing from. Then you're going to minus this off the first number. Once you have completed the subtraction, you can see here that we're left with 4,356 still. We can take the same chunk off again, so we take another 12 times 300 off, which we know is 3,600. Again, we write it underneath and subtract it from the number above. We have completed the subtraction, we are left with 756. Now we need to decide what chunk to take off next. 12 times 10 would only be 120, so maybe aim a bit bigger without going too big. So try 12 times 50, which is 600. Write that underneath and subtract it from the number above. Once you have completed the subtraction, you can see that we're left with 156. Now we could take 12 times 10 off, which is 120. Again, write it underneath and subtract it. Once you have completed the subtraction, you can see that we're left with 36. Now we know that 12 times 3 is 36, which then leaves us with the final answer of 0, which is what we wanted all along. Now, to work out what the final answer to the division is, you need to look down the side at what you have taken off each time in your chunks, in your brackets. Here you can see I've taken 300, then a 300, a 50, a 10 and a 3. You need to add up all these numbers. This can be done mentally, or as you can see at the side here, doing by column addition. The final answer that you get is 663. Therefore, the answer to the division, 7,956 divided by 12, is 663. Here is another example. We set up the division just like we did before. So, 4,690 divided by 35. need to decide what chunk to take off first. 35 times 10 would only be 350, so maybe go a bit bigger. Let's decide on 35 times 100. So 35 times 100 is 3,500. So we take that off first and subtract it from the starting number. When you have completed the subtraction, you can see we're left with 1,190. Then we might decide what we're going to take off next. 35 times 10 is only 350, maybe we could go a bit bigger, so let's try 35 times 20. 35 times 20 is 700, so you take that off the number that you've got above. Once you've done this, you are left with 490. Now we could take off another 35 times 10, which is 350. Once you've done this, we're left with 140. Now, here is where you need to maybe think about how many 35s would go into 140. You can make a little note down the side of a running addition. So 35 would be 1, 70 would be 2, 105 would be 3, and then we can see 140 would actually be 4 times 35. So there at the side we can write 35 times 4 is 140, and that gives us our magic number of 0 which we wanted to achieve. Then we need to look down the side and see what chunks we've taken off and added them all up. So here we've taken off 100, 20, 30 and 4. When we add those all together, we get 134. Therefore, the answer of 4,690 divided by 35 is 134. This final example has a remainder at the end, just to give you an idea of what one of these looks like. We start by writing the division out like the bus stop method. So 1,946 divided by 31. We need to start by thinking what chunk are we going to take off first. 31 times 30 would be a good place to start. 31 times 10 is 310, so times that by 3 is 930. Take that off the starting number. Once you have done the subtraction, you can see here that we're left with 1,016. Therefore, we could take that chunk off again. So we take off another 31 times 30, which is 930. Once we have done the subtraction, you can see here that we're left with 86. Now we need to think, what chunk of 31 can we take off? Let's do 31 times 2. 31 times 2 is 62. So we take that off and we're left with 24. Now 24 is smaller than our dividing number, therefore this is going to be our remainder. Then we look down the side and find out what our answer to our division is. So 30 add 2 is 62. So our final answer is 62 remainder 24. The main thing to remember when helping your child with the chunking method of division is that it is very subjective and personalised. What one child chooses to do one way, another child might choose to do another way. Stick with what they're most comfortable with first, even if this means taking lots of little chunks off to reach as near to 0 as possible. As your child builds up confidence, they will learn to take off bigger chunks at a time to shorten their working out. As with all home learning, praise and encouragement are most important when supporting your child with their home learning. If you have any further questions about the chunking method of division, please contact the school directly. Thank you.